Hello, loves. How are you doing? It is December, and we are in a full moon in Gemini, which is quite emotionally charged, from my understanding, even though, as you know, astrology is not really my strong suit, but we are going to look at cards to support us through this month and over the holiday season. I don't know about everyone watching this, but for myself and most people that I know, this year has kind of been a steaming pile of shit in so many ways. Yes, there have been some lovely things, but my God, I am really, I don't believe that the year turns over necessarily in January, but I do, December, I just naturally tend to go inwards and kind of think about the year, and I could write a horror movie, I think. And my birthday's on Yule, which is December 21st, so it's a special month for me. And I've been trying to just really embrace, even though there's, so many aspects of this holiday that bring up trauma, and there's a lot of it that is just, kind of gross. I've been really clinging to the parts that aren't. So I've been watching the really cheesy Hallmark movies and, having fun with my son, like coloring. I pulled out some of his Christmas coloring books, and I've been trying to just like find a focal point that's not everything else it's been. So I hope that this reading will kind of help all of us to have some things to look at for this month. And I really do wish you the absolute best with whatever you're navigating this month, because I know the holidays tend to pile on this whole other level of pressure, no matter what your situation is, and whether or not you celebrate. It's just kind of it's all around you, and it's a lot. And for us sensory folks that are easily overstimulated, it's a lot to move through. So yeah, just want to send some love out and some solidarity for what it's worth. And I wrote a spread for this that I also put a sort of larger version in the newsletter. So if you got that, this will be similar. And just get some guidance. I can't even handle my cards right now. Okay, so first card, what have I got here? What gift am I being offered this month? I don't bring fear into tarot, but to be perfectly honest, I'm feeling a little nervous about this month's cards, but we'll see. Okay, Four of Wands reversed. So it actually makes perfect sense. Four of Wands upright, so the wands tend to be about celebration, and this card in particular is usually known as anniversaries, weddings, like celebrations where people come together. Over COVID, I spent a lot more time with this card thinking what else it could mean, because a lot of us were isolating and some people were isolating alone. And so I knew it gave me a good opportunity to work more deeply with this card. And so it is a celebratory card, but I find it more along the spirit of kind of like what I was describing before I started the reading, like the Hallmark movies, like just kind of making celebration. Like I've been, whether you do a little bit of baking or watch your favorite cooking show around this time of year, or, if you happen to enjoy Christmas music, whether that's metal versions of the classics, kind of tapping into that. But it's also reverse, which means, to me, this says it's also okay if you don't want to do any of that. It's just another month, right? Like if you can take bits of what people do in December and that works for you, and you can kind of like get joy out of some of the aspects of it, or all the aspects of it, if you're a big fan of this time of year, it's also okay to not take part in it at all. And I think that's what this card is saying, that if what is best for you this month is just to like hunker down. Everybody who knows me knows I love horror movies and like scary movies. So, if whatever it is that works for you this month, just to really honor that, and don't try your best to not compare like other people are doing this. And especially when you have kids, I think it's extra hard to give yourself a bit of space around that, because you think, what am I creating for them? But I think doing what is most authentic for you and what is most restful for you this month is showing our littles something really important as well. So find balance there. Like if you can find little nuggets that you can celebrate and that feel authentic and good for you, or if you have to take part, like if there's certain things that you I hate to say have to, because I really believe we have to put our mental health first this time of year, but I also know realistically, whether it's a work function or something, often we end up, there's something we have to at least make appearances at. So doing the best with that, but just also, if you're not feeling it, and if you're not interested in what is everywhere around you in December, that's okay. Like, celebrate in your own way, but make something that you can celebrate, even if that's like giving yourself a full day in pajamas, watching your favorite shows, whether it's making your favorite meal or not cooking, just doing your best to celebrate, but 100% on your own terms, not because of obligation, not because you think this is what you should be doing, but really just celebrating the little things that you can, whether it's your hot cup of coffee in the morning or what have you. And really shirking that responsibility, that looming kind of weight about what you should be doing, because then no matter what you do, it's going to feel like garbage. So that's what I get from that. What is in my path? Sorry, I've just got because I just wrote this spread today, it's in front of me. What is in my path? Asking for attention and consideration this month. So this actually complements the other card very well. And what I've come to, so the traditional meaning of this card is, the kind of fairy tale ending, happily ever after. And I've never liked that, because first of all, I think there isn't an ending. I feel like if we're not putting in work and if we're not trying to create our happiness, we've kind of given up. So what resonates the most with me for this card, and it was similar to what Lindsay Mack talks about with this card, is being available for joy, and just kind of being available for those little moments. And it goes well with what we were seeing with the Four of Wands reversed, in just like, the sound of someone's laugh. Like, maybe you have someone in your life who has like just the most, hugest laugh, that they laugh with their whole body, and just slowing down enough to really take that in and just be like, oh my God, I love that laugh. Or your favorite scent. I don't wear perfume or even makeup often, so I actually, that's one of the ways I find myself in a meditative state, is putting on makeup. I keep meaning to speak to this because I think it sounds really silly, and yet I really go into a zone where it feels like the most decadent self-care, and I don't do these kind of things like makeup and perfume and stuff often, so when I do, it feels like a real treat. And so looking for being available for the joy that comes often in the midst of a really hard time too. Like, the example that comes to mind from my life is when my son was in NICU as a baby, and it was like the worst, most terrifying, horrible period of time in my life. But there was a couple of times where my husband and I were so sleep deprived, and we would just end up laughing over something ridiculous, like, being 2 minutes too late to get something to eat or whatever. Like, it's finding joy amidst often really challenging times. And, that's really, in a lot of ways, the most meaningful gift we can give ourselves, is just really allowing ourselves to still be available for joy, even when we want to just shut down and just block out anything that might bring us joy. So it's also a 10, which usually means the end of a cycle, which I really, really hope is the case, because I could, the Band-Aid's coming off. All right, next we have, what can I leave behind in 2022 in order to move forward? We have Five of Cups reversed, which is kind of tricky. Now, this has come to be one of my favorite cards in a lot of ways. We've got it reversed just so you can see the visual on that. Because rather than what people used to say about this card about not crying over spilled milk, you see some of the cups are on their side and there's the two behind him. So yes, there's full cups behind him. Doesn't matter. I say him. I shouldn't assume a gender with this card. Full cups behind them. It doesn't matter if we haven't honored the grief that comes from the 3 cups that are spilled. It doesn't matter if we have 50 cups behind us. What matters is that we have sat with the grief as many times as it takes, as long as it takes. Now, it doesn't mean giving up and shutting down completely. It doesn't mean dissociating and bypassing. What it means is that when you get hit with a wave of grief, that you are with it as best you can be. And I know sometimes it'll hit us when we are having to show up for something else, and so we have to kind of wait until we have time alone. But it's just really honoring. And I've talked a lot with different people about this card and just how um, there are so many ways that we grieve in our life that I think we don't even realize our grief. Like there are so many little griefs that happen, little losses, little things that chip away at us that I think often we don't even realize are taking their toll on us. So I think this card is also, and yes, it's something to let go of. So I think we're ready to release things that we've been grieving for a really long time. With the one thing about this card is with the understanding that even when we do releasing and we, honor that this, we've kind of put in our time and we really want to move on from a certain area of our life that we've been grieving, that it may like just because we decide we're letting it go doesn't mean that something won't remind us of it and that we can get like hit with big feelings again. And I think those two things can exist together. We can make the decision that we're not going to put any more energy into grieving this particular thing because we really feel like we've done it justice. And we can also hold that that doesn't mean that we won't necessarily get caught off guard by big feelings around it. And I think that's what it's saying in the reverse position, is just that look for somewhere that the other way that this can show up is if we're carrying around a grief almost in a state of martyrdom, like almost like we feel like we need to punish ourselves with this grief in order to honor the loss that it represents. And so all that does is hold us back and keep us kind of in a holding pattern rather than letting us move on. So look for areas of your life like that where you're still feeling a lot of loss and grief, but you know that you've productively spent time with that, honoring it, and make the decision that you're not going to seek out time to sit with that loss, if that makes sense. You're not going to intentionally bring up that loss to sit with it because you've already done that enough. And so to move forward, you're going to honor the memories, honor the work that you've done around this, and you're going to make it the intention to move on with the full cups. I think that's what I get from that one. Next card, what is... I did not put the middle card. Okay. Well, usually the middle card in this kind of spread is what is coming up around us. So how can we holiday theme that? What is under our tree this month? Let's do that. If you have a Yule tree or Christmas tree or holiday tree or menorah or whatever it is you have, that if you have a focal point this holiday season, these are the gifts that are underneath it. Ace of Cups. Lovely. So a brand new Ace of Cups is this beautiful offering of, we were talking about available joy. Ace of Cups is what it feels like when we're available for joy. Ace of Cups is that, the butterflies, the kind of excitement, that feeling of new beginning that we get when we're starting. It's not usually, I don't think of cups so much as project oriented. It can be when you've got a new friendship with someone that you really connect with and you're so excited because you get to sit and talk about all your favorite things. It can be a new relationship. It can be reviving a current relationship, but it's just this sort of welling up of available emotion and resourcing around your capacity to feel love and nostalgia and in a joyful way. And so usually this will come in the form of an opportunity. Something will kind of catch your attention. And, aces in many ways are like steeds. They're, in all of the cards on the Rider Waite, it's like a disembodied hand handing you something. So it's usually like a part of our bigger picture. So, it's somebody, if we get that kind of excited feeling around someone, it's probably someone who's here to show us something really important, something valuable, something that's meant to stay with us for our journey. So it's kind of exciting. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person either. It can be an experience. It can be like a book that you've read. Like it's just something that kind of unlocks this sort of welling of emotional energy. So that's a pretty good present to have under the tree. Next card, what can I focus on in the coming new year to align with my purpose? So in other words, how can I, if I'm straying off my track of where I'm meant to be, what can I focus on to get back on track? Ooh, Wheel of Fortune. This is a neat card. And it's come up quite often in my readings lately, so I feel like it's especially showing up as like what to focus on in the new year. It's such a huge card. It's sometimes hard to find where to start. Okay, so essentially the Wheel of Fortune has to do with cycles and yes, purpose, but really like our deep spiritual purpose. And that doesn't have to be anything. You can be secular, atheist. It just means like what we feel called to do. It also has to do with cycles, in as much as it's a very positive card too. I'll say that about that. It doesn't mean it's always a treat to go through Wheel of Fortune energy, because oftentimes it can be surprising, but it's mostly just a reminder that when we are exhausted and burnt out, we're not always going to be there. You know, the wheel will come around and we'll have energy again. So especially those of us who maybe have health issues or mental health issues, or just even limits on our capacity, like how much we're able to give before we, you know, kind of run out of steam. It's just a reminder that things are always moving. We're never stuck. Like we're never in, you know, when things are really horrible, remembering that, you know, there will be a lifting of that at some point. We're not going to be stuck there forever. And similarly, I think it's also important to remind ourselves when we go through a period where we do have a lot of energy, we don't have to do everything in that cycle. So, you know, anyone who finds that they vacillate, is that the word? Vacillate between, you know, having bouts of quite a bit of energy and then having, you know, low energy times, which I definitely tend to do. It can be really tempting when we're in a higher energy thing to knowing that it's a limited resource to try and do all the things. And then all that happens is when we do have our lower energy phase, we really sink because we've pushed past our body. So remembering to kind of stay like, the picture I get with this is something I learned in a training years ago, which were 3 concentric circles. And the very center circle was our comfort zone. And that's where we go to recharge. It's where we have very few triggers, where we kind of have a controlled environment, usually in our home or our room. And oftentimes our bed, like when we're really overstimulated, where we have a lot of control over what can get to us, that kind of thing. And that can be really important, especially if you're neurodivergent. That's, you know, it's the only way to kind of get back up to where you can be social again. And then just outside of that circle is your learning circle. And that's where you've stepped out of your comfort zone. You're maybe trying something new, or you're recognizing that you haven't reached out to friends in a long time. So you go out for coffee, like that kind of thing. Or maybe you try like a workshop that interests you. You're kind of like stepping out of your comfort zone, but not like diving headlong into something. And then your freak out zone would be like going straight from your comfort zone and like signing up to do university classes full time. Like, you know, we can tend to, if we're frustrated with ourselves especially, we can tend to jump from 0 to 100. So the Wheel of Fortune just brings in that that gentle reminder that life is always in cycles, and that we don't have to, and it serves us best not to get too attached to any of them. When things are great and it feels like, you know, money is not quite as much of a strain, although I don't remember the last time that was the case. You know, it can be easy to forget how much it sucks to struggle. And then when we're struggling, we think, I'm never going to be able to, you know, breathe with money again. So trying to stay away from those extremes. A book that just came to mind that I had never really associated with this card, but kind of lines up well, is and I'm going to say her name wrong, Pema Chodron, I think. When Things Fall Apart. And it's just this book about, you know, the hardest times in our life and how we tend to want to always cling to one side or the other. We have a really hard time in that gray sort of liminal space. You know, we tend to, so I'm either this or I'm that, or I'm like, you know, so that's just a suggestion, some medicine to put out there. It's a nice short read. It's a beautiful and funny short read, but really, really life-changing for me anyways, especially, you know, for sobriety and things like that. It was one that was recommended as a book that actually isn't about sobriety, but that helps you with your mindset when you are in recovery. So, and yeah, again, it's called When Things Fall Apart. And our final card, our kind of contemplative card for the holiday season, is Queen of Pentacles. Yeah. So, you know, the queens are water, pentacles are earth, and the queens are very much the intuitive and receptive energy of the deck, but they're also very incredibly wise. And Queen of Pentacles sort of wraps you in her energy. Like, if you've ever gone to someone's house, and again, we're not ever thinking gender, we're just looking because it's a queen. It's a feminine and receptive energy that doesn't speak to sex or gender, just the nature of the energy. And Queen of Pentacles energy, if you've ever gone to someone's house and the minute you get there, you're offered a cup of tea and you're just like immediately comfortable, and it doesn't really matter what the house looks like or what's going on in that house. It's that feeling of just being fully embraced for who you are. And so I think, how do we do that for ourselves? Because pentacles, traditionally are associated with money, our home, our body, things like that. But what they come down to most importantly for me is our sense of safety. So if that is having abundance in your finances, that's the Queen of Pentacles tells you to focus on that. If it's making sure you're putting good foods in your body, focus on that, and just bring in the resourcing you need to feel safe and to feel supported throughout this holiday season. So especially if it is a challenging time for you, or if this time of year is hard to find your footing, to really focus on what you need and what just what feels good, and kind of, because we got the Four of Wands reversed at the beginning, I would still come back to that, not worrying about what other people may think. Like, if going to a family gathering is so detrimental to your mental health that you're like stressing about it months beforehand and stuff like that, I really do encourage you to look at whether or not there's another way you can, could you do a Zoom call and just kind of say hi to everybody? Could you, I don't know, look for ways that you can support yourself and balance balance expectations, and just really check in with yourself. And when it comes down to it, if it's going to do that much damage for you to go to a certain event or whatever, don't go. Like, I know it's hard, and what people think of you because of it is really none of your concern. You have to do what's best for you. And if you have children involved and they really want to see these other family members, and it's safe for them to be there, you could look at ways that they could go without you. Just feel free to make adaptations. Traditions are only worth celebrating if they also honor you and what you need. So really pay attention to your safety, pay attention to what you need this month, and just honor yourself. I'm not going to keep, I could ramble on that, but that's, I think, all I wanted to say about that is honor yourself, listen to your own limits. It's okay to say no thank you. That is a complete sentence. You don't have to give reasons why you don't want to go. If you're being invited to a bunch of different things and you only have it in you to go to one or two, choose the ones that are the least stressful for you, and make sure you allow for time for kind of regenerating in between those things. Well, I believe that's all the cards have to say. And I just want to thank you all for being here. Anyone who takes the time to watch this, and for the folks who have been with me since I started doing tarot professionally 4 years ago, I guess. Even though I've been using tarot my whole life, it's been interesting, and it's been so fun to hear what other people see in the cards, and it's just been wonderful. So I'm really, truly grateful for that. And I wish you the very best however you spend this month, and I guess I will talk to you again in January. All right, bye for now.